So today we're going to talk about how demons use our vices and addictions to steal our energy and destroy the ones we love. You see, these so-called demons are just imaginary things, so they require phantom power, which means they need to steal power from somewhere else to get their life force. And where do they steal that power from? They steal it from you. They steal it from you because when you believe in the demons, you validate their existence. And so the more you feed them your negative energy, your fear, your shame, your guilt, your hatred, the stronger they get. And the thing is that these demons can't just steal your energy. You have to give them permission, like the idea of a vampire that can't enter your home unless you welcome it in. And so if you pay attention, you will see that these complexes in the mind, these subpersonalities that are demonic in nature, they will trick and manipulate you to give them power over you. And we let them in by giving in to certain temptations, to wrong actions, to the fear, to the guilt, and to the shame. The more we feed these demons or these imaginary things in our minds, and the more power they have over us, the more they are able to possess us. And you see this happen all the time, where you or somebody you might have seen loses control, and for a time they simply don't know what has come over them. But what has happened is that they have been possessed by something they have been feeding their energy to over a long period of time. And so when this complex or this demon is powerful enough to possess us, that is when we can unfortunately do unspeakable things. And the way I look at it is that people are not punished for the actions that they do. They are punished for allowing themselves to be possessed, because we allow that negativity in. And so how do these so-called demons trick us into giving them power? It's through who we believe we are. And you will notice that any negative thought that comes will always attack your personal identity, and somehow it always knows the exact pain point to get your attention. It knows your vulnerabilities. It knows your weak spots. It knows what triggers you. And so these so-called demons play you like a fiddle. And if you really pay attention, you will see very clearly that in no way is this a fair fight. It's almost as if they can control us without any effort. And you see, many of us do the same things over and over. We repeat the same patterns. We repeat the same habits. And so the moment that somebody or something understands your pattern of behavior, all they have to do is trigger that behavior, and they know exactly what you're going to do. And once they know what triggers you, then they have power over you. And so that is why it is of key importance to create space in our lives to be non-reactive. Because if we're always taking action and going forward, and things are coming at us and life is just being thrown on top of us, it can be overwhelming. And we can get very emotional. And it is through the negative emotional states that we begin allowing the demons to work their way into our lives. But when we learn to be non-reactive and watch our emotions come and go, watch our thoughts come and go, then we take away the fuel source from any kind of negativity. And the more we can take away the fuel source from negativity, the less power it has over our lives. And so when I speak of demons, don't allow your preconditioned beliefs about what they are to fool you, because it doesn't matter what you call them. In psychology, you call them complexes. And when you call them complexes, it takes away the charge, the emotional charge away from the idea. So that might be a better term for you to understand this phenomenon. But instead of just listening to what I am saying, begin developing the awareness to see these forces acting upon you in your life, because they are there. And a lot of the times, they don't want you to know that they are there. The more we remain ignorant of their presence in our lives, the more we give our free will and power away to these forces outside of our control. And so I like to say that unconsciousness is the root of all suffering. Because what you are unconscious of has the potential to kill you. It has the potential to create pain in your life. And so these negative forces that are at play, unless we become aware of them, then we really can't do anything about them. So long as we deny their existence in our lives, the more free reign they have to create havoc. And so when I say the word demon, a lot of people will just immediately write it off as something crazy or something religious because they don't understand it. And that's just the mind's way of keeping those forces a secret, to allow them to keep working in the shadows. Because the moment you bring the light upon them, they no longer have free reign. And in fact, you do not actually have to fight any demonic force. We do not have to fight evil, because evil is a self-destructive force. All we have to do is shine the light of awareness upon them, and the darkness will fade away on its own. So you see, this is the root of all self-destructive behavior, because evil or darkness is self-destructive. And when we allow ourselves to be possessed by darkness, we become self-destructive. And an easy way to think about this is look out into the universe. What is the destructive force of reality? There are black holes. And so what you can call demons or the negative force that plays in our lives is simply a byproduct of the natural forces of reality. But because we have developed brains, we create a whole new universe in our minds called the mental reality. And so what becomes a natural force in the universe that manifests as black holes, this negative force manifests in our minds as the force of Satan, the force of self-destruction. And if you pay attention, you will see both a negative force and a positive force in your mind at play at all times. These, what you might call voices within us, that guide us in these different directions. One guides us towards self-destruction, and one guides us toward eternal life. And depending on which one you feed your energy, depending on whether or not you focus on the negative or the positive, that will result in the outcome of your life. That is what you will manifest. And the lower you go, the the more you will create hell on earth. And the higher you go, the more you will create heaven on earth. And so we must see that every human being plays a role on this planet. We cast our vote toward one side or the other. And each person may cast their votes many times in either direction at different times in their life. And so this is a dynamic process that is always unfolding. And we must understand that the more the world degenerates into chaos, the more our environment will select for order to be created. Because the universe is always in a process of balancing itself out. So a lot of people look at society and they can see it going down the toilet. But what we have to understand is that society and the world is not actually getting worse. It's just a natural process that is unfolding, and a balancing out will eventually emerge. And it is because we choose to perceive the negative that we create a negative experience of reality. Because what happens is, as we degenerate as a culture, as a species, as a human race, the suffering that is created from that degeneracy will create motivation in the select few or in the select many, which will cause people to rise up and stand against this degeneracy and return to righteousness. So if the world seems as if there's no hope and that humanity is doomed, understand that this is just your perspective, and it's false. Because there will be a turning point when things get bad enough. That is often the time in which we take action. And it is when things are good that we often get careless and lazy and allow ourselves to slip back into degeneracy. And so on and on we go. This eternal process of balancing the dark and the light. So you see, don't be fooled into creating this story in your head about how the world is or how people are or how things are, because this is just a story that we use to reaffirm our sense of who we believe we are. And it is because we are attached to our identity that we continue to fuel this story. And so we create our experience of reality through our identity, through what we choose to focus our attention on. And most people are unconscious of this fact. But I tell you that if you begin paying attention to the thoughts that you think and the words that you speak and your self-talk, you will begin to get very, very clear about why your life is the way it is. And in this clarity, in this awareness, you will have the opportunity to change that. But so long as we remain unconscious in these forces, then we will create our reality, and we will call it fate, as Carl Jung said. And so if you would rather create heaven on earth than a hellish reality, and all you have to do is choose where you focus your attention. Because there is negative, positive forces all around us in everything. Because like I've said in the past, the universe is perfectly balanced. And it's just that some things are more imbalanced toward the good or the evil, the light or the darkness. And so if something is 90% dark or 90% evil, that means there is 10% good. If there is 99% evil, then there is 1% good. But it is still our choice to what we see. And what we see is our reality. It is our experience, and we can choose to see whatever we like. But it is because we react to our environment and we are seduced by the five senses that we get pulled into illusion, pulled into suffering, and we forget our power as creators. And that is one of the, what you might call, one of the many joys of life, is that by forgetting, we have the opportunity to remember, and how a wonderful experience that is to remember something that we have forgotten, especially when that remembering is the key to our freedom, when the things that have been distracting us, when the world that has us caught in illusion is that which has been causing us to suffer. And the suffering that the illusion creates allows us to experience a contrast between the dark and the light. So the suffering we experience, to the degree of our suffering, that will determine the degree of freedom that we experience. If you were lost in a desert and there was no water, how much greater does that water taste when it finally touches your lips? And so we can reframe our experience of reality from a false understanding to a true understanding. And that true understanding is that the dark and the light are equally important for the balance and the sustainability of the world around us. And so if you are experiencing something negative, understand that you have the power to reframe that, to focus your attention on whatever is positive about it. And you see, this is not about naive delusion. This is about what you choose to give your energy to. And what you give your energy to, you reinforce that reality. And so it doesn't make any sense whatsoever to focus on something that is not serving you, to focus your attention on something that you would not want to experience. And so if we begin focusing our orientation of the mind toward what is good, and we get in the habit of seeking out the positivity, well, then we no longer have to try to see the positive. The positive reveals itself naturally. And so it's just a habit. And it's a biological habit. Because in terms of evolution, it was necessary for us to focus on the negative, because that is how we survived. But we are done with these lower natures. But our lower natures aren't done with us. And so just remember that it is a habit, and a deeply biological habit, that we choose to focus on what is wrong. And it just takes some time to practice focusing on what is right, to practice meditation and create some space in our mind so we're not always reacting to our external circumstances. And once we can become non-reactive, then we have the power to choose what we focus on. And with this power, we take away our energy from these demons, from negativity. And they no longer have the same kind of influence in our lives.